So what is well-being? Let's talk about that. What is it? People talk about it. And you've before talked about that, like you want to increase the thread count of your network of people that are in your life that you enjoy having in your life.
Oh, sure. Use my best stuff.
I want to say it over and over and over.
That's not. It's probably easier to talk about what it isn't.
What well-being is not. Yes, people have said things like not comfortable in your skin, having consternation about a relationship in your life, and could we talk about well-being with oneself or well-being of a relationship? And it's kind of like every well-being is with a relationship, whether it be a relationship you have with yourself or with others.
You should make yourself a life coach.
Does that go with well-being of the ability to change other people's lives as a verb? Well-being is we've talked about this before, and a lot of people are starting to talk about using verbs instead of nouns for things we previously thought of as nouns as life. People are thinking that life, science talking about what is life, is a virus life, or the age of corona right now. They're like, well, it's hard to quantify life unless you talk about it as a process, as a verb. And is well-being a verb?
Well, it's got being.
It does.
Being is like a friend of mine calls it ising. I'm just sitting around ising. I'm existing. I'm being. The Buddhists describe it, and they use the word equanimity.
That's a good one. That's a really good one.
You sound really fancy when you say it.
Yeah, if you know what it means, though. Equanimity is not allowing any one emotion in you hold sway, as allowing all the emotions inside of you have an equal input. Overflowing negative emotions really cause havoc in one's life. Overflowing positive emotions usually don't. And so equanimity is kind of the idea that you let all of the emotions in you have a democratic ability to have a place in your mind, and you let them all kind of not really. I think people had misunderstood the Stoics and thought that it meant not honoring your emotions. I think it instead meant allowing all of them to be heard, but not all of them to have action, hold the reins of your behavior.
So, as you can see, it's not so easy to tell people what well-being is. You got to resort to Stoics. Have you ever experienced equanimity?
Yes, the wheel of awareness. All of a sudden, some emotions that I have been holding back are able to come to the fore. But because I'm in a state of sedate meditation, it doesn't cause an action that I don't want it to have.
Well, you should pay more attention and work up your own answer from your own more coherent story. That's what's interesting to me. I think that's a worthy thing to explore as if it were an open question. And we don't know what it is yet. There are way too many people talking as if they knew what it was. And I think you probably get more done by holding back a little bit and trying to really catch yourself in the experience. Ising correct.
I did some well-being yesterday.
I was good at existing. I was skilled in my existence.
Yeah, one way I talk about well-being is where in meditation, you're okay with the thoughts you have about yourself and the thoughts you have about others, so that when you're with others, you can be okay with the thoughts you have about them. And not letting those cause actions necessarily. You said about people like, I forget, Shakespeare example, was known to be one of the rare people who could hold two competing thoughts in your head at the same time. And that is something sometimes you have to do with another person and say that I disagree with you and I love you. You know, I will. This is which one of our founder fathers says I disagree wholeheartedly with your position, but I will fight to the death for your right to say it.
I think that's one of the
Ooh, go ahead. I have a
just
thought.
sort of the overarching goal of doing this work is to, I think, for me, is to come up with something actually sensible and useful about well-being.
Yes. So, so here's
As if he already knew this.
so they talk about in Johns Hopkins research on psilocybin therapy have found that one of the most important parts of the therapy is what's called integration. You go through your mind's opening to all the awareness of yourself. And this is, you don't need to have psilocybin. You can also have meditation and a lot of vapor therapy or holotropic breathing. Various ways open your mind from the grips of your default mode network, and allow more parts of your mind to chime in. And what happens is there's a lot of voices talking in there in terms of various emotions, traumas from the past, relationships currently in your life, things you want for the future, things you've talked about your fears, your three core fears, and your 5 core values. All of these are going to come in, and then you have to integrate it all. And so that is usually in like one of these psilocybin sessions at Johns Hopkins. Afterwards, there'll be a discussion after the person's back to reality, and they'll integrate everything they've learned. And this can be like, how do I now decide what is my definition of well-being going forward? You know, it could be talking about, this is what Taryn Ferris says. He says, you know, instead of talk about your life goals, talk about your fears, your main fears in life. And if you can avoid those fears, that's a pretty good life. You know, you avoided your main fears, which for some people are regrets of having maybe get into retirement. You know, what was it? Regrets I've had a few by Frank Sinatra. If you can get to that point, you're like, wow, I don't have any regrets. I really avoided my fears, and yeah, that's about the same thing as goals, right? You can, and then your 5 core values. Did I achieve creativity? Did I achieve, you know, a greater connection to the people in my life that I love, and increase the number of people in my life that I love? You know,
That's 2.
Yeah.
You said 5.
I said 5.
5 core values.
Oh yeah.
You
Laughter.
don't,
I love laughter.
you don't have to share. Yeah.
Childlike
So-
wonder for the world. That's huge. Childlike
So,
wonder.
I mean, your approach has been
Yeah.
to, like, buy the big discount card and go to the self-help buffet
Yes. Yeah. Click.
and have a big helping of almost everything.
Yeah. You get your card, right? And I don't know who I'm going to advertise here for.
What do you have?
Well, yeah, Nina's. You'll have your card, and you'll punch your card every time you go to the self-help thing, and you know it can be neat. You learn about life. You know, it doesn't have to be all about digging into the demons you have in your life or trying to correct them. You'll just learn about all sorts of life. I've learned about history and the Greeks from this guy, and you know, well, the Greeks from a lot of people because they're pretty great. Yeah, you click your punch card and you learn more about life. The more and more you do it, you realize that it's the verb in well-being, and that it is really what life's all about. Life is really about finding your own potential. And I think a lot of people come to self-help of various sorts, therapy, group therapy sessions, what's called mutual aid associations like AA, CODA, and all these things. And they're really trying to, like, you know, say, oh, I have to solve problems. But really, if you can open it to instead, what's human potential? What's my own potential? And you realize that there's so much more potential, that the problems you thought you were going to solve were minuscule compared to what you actually do learn. And it's almost like the coupon card that you had. Once you punch 10, it gives you 1,000. You know, for free, and it's like, wow, that was a pretty good return on investment. That's bigger than Tesla right now.
Just okay. So I think that's total BS.
Okay.
Except that I've long since I can find one spot of agreement, so that makes it okay. That I think
That's where you start. You start
Yeah.
from the point of agreement. You don't start on the things you disagree with
that
each other.
if your life's about anything, is that your life is your primary work of art. It's kind of, if you put yourself second, what are you going to put first in your life? And that's kind of some values driven kind of thing. And the higher the value, the happier you are.
Yeah, this
If
is
you
about
have-
you.
If you happen to pick crappy
all about you.
values, you're going to be miserable.
Yeah, life's-
If you, when you, that's a big part of well-being
Yeah.
is to hold and honor decent values. What are the ones that are good for you and good for others, for your holding. If you have crappy values, like I want to just accumulate a lot of money, which is nothing wrong with that. I kind of want to accumulate a lot of money because I like to spend it.
That's like a security.
But it's not a enriching value. It makes you miserable generally, mostly, because you never have enough.
Jim Ferriss said, budget your life. Find things you want and find the least amount of money you can make to get those things. And then you will be able to work the least amount of amount that you need to get those things.
Yeah, so that's not as bad as I expected.
And everything beyond that
Yeah.
is insurance, and economists will tell you insurance is way it's way what's the word I'm looking for? It's overvalued. Insurance is kind of like a needless degree of peace of mind.
Yeah, that's a crappy value. I have lots of insurance values, and it's not up to me. Don't listen to me. Don't listen to him. You should be concerned with kind of setting your own course.
Yeah. Don't listen to us, because if anything we say makes sense, it'll resonate in your own head, and then you'll be listening to yourself. You won't be listening to us, and that's really where the truth is. The truth is in common understandings, is in universal truths, and once you say it for yourself in your own words, just like in school, don't rewrite what the textbook said. Write it in your own words, because then you'll really understand it. And it's more true for well-being than it is for things you learn in elementary school.
There are a lot of things that you have to discover for yourself that you cannot learn by mimicry or pretense. Although pretense and mimicry are excellent learning methods, but eventually you've got to learn it for yourself. And one way to ensure that is to put it into your own words and to never stop putting it into, to keep refining your story until it's coherent and it moves you and the people around you.
One of the amazing qualities of the human condition has been our ability to thrive anywhere on earth. And that comes through diversity, and that comes from defining your life in different ways. It's allowing humanity to live in its own diversity that has made us, kind of be pretty awesome. And I think everybody needs to do that in their own life. There's no supposed to, there's no shoulds. There are, but it's not going to lead you somewhere good. Well-being comes from being okay with yourself and realizing that what you want is not necessarily what somebody else wants, and that's okay.
I'm not sure what you just said. And that's okay.
Stop it.